Hello. Today I want to look at the first couple of chapters of Volume 3 in Great Expectations. The last volume ended with Pip's revelation that the benefactor is the convict whom Pip had helped at the beginning of the novel. The question we can ask is, does Pip still have great expectations? He's been made into a gentleman. His benefactor has brought even more money that is all to be spent on Pip. But has his status changed? Do you remember after Pip visited Newgate Prison with Wemmick that he felt so contaminated and he tries shaking the prison smells off of him. He tries exhaling it from his lungs. And this is all happening before visiting Estella, but he just feels so contaminated in that. How does he feel now knowing that his fortune has come from someone of that seedy character? Do you think that his society is still going to accept him as a gentleman, knowing that his benefactor is a convict? We find out that Abel Magwitch has devoted his life to making Pip a gentleman. Look for a minute here on page 303. Magwitch takes incredible pride in his gentleman, as he refers to him. Sorry, I'm just getting going here. Page 303, where are we? Oh, man, it doesn't want to turn for me. Okay. So he says here, the middle of the page, "And this," said he, dandling my hands up and down his as he puffed at his pipe, "and this is the gentleman what I made, the real genuine one. Okay, and then later on he says, "I've come to the old country for to see my gentleman spend his money like a gentleman. That'll be my pleasure. My pleasure will be for to see him do it. And blast you all," he wound up, looking around the room and snapping his fingers once with a loud snap. "Blast you, everyone, from the judge in his wig to the colonist a stirring up the dust. I'll show a better gentleman than the whole kit on you put together." And Pip is alarmed, like, "Woo, stop. In an earlier lecture, we talked about what makes a gentleman. Is it wealth? Is it good manners? Is it the right speech? Is it about having connections? Or, we talked about, is it more a matter of the heart? Is it about having integrity? Is it about taking pride in what you do and having humility and dignity and all of those kinds of things? So, Magwitch believes that it's all about wealth. He has done everything for Pip. Pip is going to, live this prosperous life that Magwitch could only have dreamt for himself. But Pip is absolutely repulsed by Magwitch. He's disgusted by the way that Magwitch eats and talks and all of his manners. And Pip tries to dress him up, but there's nothing that can hide Magwitch's true nature. Look at page 308. This is kind of resonates with an earlier description of Joe. So he says at the bottom, page 308, that he's gotten these clothes for his Uncle Provis. So he's going to call Abel Magwitch Uncle Provis, just to sort of protect the man's identity. "Whatever he put on became him less. It dismally seemed to me than what he had worn before. To my thinking, there was something in him that had made it hopeless to attempt to disguise him. The more I dressed him and the better I dressed him, the more he looked like the slouching fugitive on the marshes. This effect on my anxious fancy was partly referable, no doubt, to his old face and manner, growing more familiar to me, but I believe, too, that he dragged one of his legs as if there were still a weight of iron on it, and that from head to foot there was convict in the very grain of the man. He says he has a savage air that no dress could tame." Later in the next paragraph, "In these ways and 1,000 other small nameless instances arising every minute in the day, there was prisoner, felon, bondsman, plain as plain could be. Nothing can disguise who he is." And this is certainly the description that we were given of Joe in previous chapters, that, he is awkward, he's uncomfortable wearing his Sunday clothes, right? And, what this tells us is that clothes can't disguise the essence of a person. And my question is, if this is the case, what is Pip's essence? I mean, who is Pip? You know, he's this pretentious sort of gentleman, but what about, you know, who he truly is, his essence? I'd mentioned how Dickens characters often have these little idiosyncrasies, such as Wemmick's, you know, portable property, and aged P and Jaggers with his incessant hand washing. And I mean, I could go on and on about Miss Havisham's kind of, you know, quirks. But Magwitch has his own quirkiness. He carries around a Bible that he conveniently pulls out of his pocket and makes people swear on it. It's kind of like he's been in the court so long that he's adopted this convention. So in chapter 2, Herbert is entrusted with the secret of Magwitch. And on page 311, he says here, that he's going to talk about, so they both like feel this repugnance. He says, not least among them, my repugnance toward the man who had done so much for me. And Herbert also is going to adopt this sort of feeling of ew, right? And we know that Magwitch has done many things wrong, but we're not totally privy to what that all means yet. But he's made Pip into a gentleman, and he wants him to be accepted, but it's not going to go quite as well. Pip vows to accept no more money from Magwitch, but remember that Pip has racked up all this debt, and he needs to pay this all back, but he doesn't want to use Magwitch's money to pay it back, so he determines to get a job. But remember that Pip doesn't actually have any career because he was only supposed to be a gentleman, so he's going to become a soldier. At least he can be a soldier. And then that'll be like a huge lowering of his social status, mind you, but he's resolved not to accept Magwitch's money. But then Herbert and Pip realize that Pip's refusal may not go over well with the convict. If Magwitch has given everything, his entire life, to making Pip a gentleman, and Pip refuses this, what is that going to look like? Okay, that's it for chapters 1 and 2 of volume 3.